Oh, welcome to the show. My name's Mark. This is the Farzy show, and the Phillies look like they're going to have the Marlins on their back again. Thought the Marlin monkey was off their back. The monkey's not off the back. Monkey's very much still on the back. It's still very much going to be a nuisance, apparently, this baseball season. But anyway, welcome into the show. Dave Zangaro will join us coming up in a little bit. Talk all things Eagles draft, where they could be headed, what they could be doing, trading up, trading back, staying put, trading back for more assets, whatever. We're going to get into that with Dave Zangaro. I am in a very frustrated state right now, as I'm sure a lot of you are as well. And I don't really care that it's early in the season. This is not the way you wanted to see your baseball team start out. This is certainly not the way you wanted to see them start out a homestand with their first homestand of the season. Having the lead in 5 of the 6 games they were at home during this homestand and blowing the lead in those 5 of the 6 games that they had lead. That is not fun. That is not good. To come away with this with 3 victories, going 500 is terrible at home against the Reds and against the Miami Marlins. And yesterday, you actually had a pitcher on the mound that was doing great, was cruising a little bit, had a little bump there in the 5th inning, settled down, came back in the 6th inning, got a 12-pitch inning, and was just doing fine and dandy. And all you could do for the guy was muster up a couple of runs for him. Great, good, grand. The thing that really got to me in this game to start it off was exactly what happened when the game started, which was Bryson Stott's back in the leadoff spot, as Rob Thompson said he would be. He gets on base, gets a single, steals second. Then next thing you know, Trey Turner's up. He gets on base. You get an out. He steals second. You have 2 hits, 2 stolen bases. Schwarber, Castellanos, Real Muto. Out, out, out. Swing at the first pitch. Swing at the first pitch. Out. As I've said to you before, I don't really care often about swinging at the first pitch, like it's some major violation in baseball to swing at the first pitch. Sometimes it makes sense. Sometimes it's going to be a fastball pitcher. You're going to sit on a fastball the first pitch. You're going to try to get ahead in the count. You're going to try to attack. I guess that's what Kyle Schwarber was trying to do, but he got a curveball to start him off. And I don't know what Nick Castellanos was swinging at. But the bottom line is the more important thing here is that Kyle Schwarber and Nick Castellanos need to realize what's going on. And what's going on is you're facing a pitcher in Cabrera who walked 13 batters in his previous 2 starts, and you decide to be aggressive. Oh, and by the way, in this particular game, you already got him on the ropes when Bryson Stott led off with a single. Then Trey Turner gets up in the count 3-0. Then he deposits a single into the outfield. And you see the Cabrera struggle again, and you decide to go up there hacking in the first inning. It makes 0 sense at that point. You can't tell me that in that first inning, when they didn't get a run after 2 hits, 2 stolen bases, and the meat of the order coming up, you didn't say to yourself, oh, that's going to come back and bite him in the ass. Because I certainly thought, that's going to come back and bite him in the ass. I think I was a little bit more diplomatic on Twitter. I think I said something along the lines of, oh, that first inning was haunting. And it was, as you lost in 10 innings to the Miami Marlins. And you dropped 2 of 3 to the Miami Marlins. Yep, not exactly what you wanted to see in this particular game, to see how things were going to start off with this Phillies squad. Another struggle-filled performance. And here's the thing. The Phillies yesterday, Bryson Stott right now, individually hitting .420 on the season. Nice. And he is out there doing great things for you, phenomenal things for you. One little base running blunder, and things happen. But from the plate, been your most consistent hitter this season. He's batting 3rd right now in all of Major League Baseball. That's his batting average. 3rd. It's .420 batting average. 3rd Major League Baseball. The Phillies as a team have the 4th best batting average in all of baseball. The mega Kajunga problem with that is the pitching has been the 4th worst ERA. That's right, the 4th highest ERA in all of baseball. Can we get a balance of some sort? Maybe we keep the hot bats. I think we'd all like that, right? And then maybe the pitching comes around. Well, yesterday, it came around for you, at least with your starting pitcher with Zach Wheeler and the way he was throwing. In that 5th inning, he did get into a little bit of trouble, Zach Wheeler did, and that was another worrisome performance. But Miami comes out there. You got a great diving stop by Clemens at first base. Sanchez ended up grounding out to the third baseman. Stalling then walks. You get the force out from Birdie. And then you get Chisholm goes up there. Chisholm goes up there, and he goes up there and walks. Soler walks. Arise goes out there with the bases loaded and flies out to the center field. So you were able to get out of a jam, Zach Wheeler. In the bottom of that inning, the Phillies decide to go out there and get you a run or two, right? You go out there, you see Bryson Stott get up there with an RBI double. Clemens got his first hit as a Philly. He's brought home with the RBI double by Bryson Stott. Schwarber walks. You get an opportunity to maybe score another run. Nick Castellanos ends up grounding out to the shortstop. But the bottom line is you're able to get a run for your pitcher in that regard. That was great. The previous inning, the fourth inning, Brandon Marsh goes out there. He does what he needs to do. He goes out there with an RBI single. Bohm ends up ending the inning with a 5-4-3 double play. But at the end of that inning, it was tied. Zach Wheeler then struggles, but doesn't allow a run in the fifth inning. He gets rewarded by his offense in the bottom of that fifth inning with that RBI single from Bryson Stott. And after that, the Phillies couldn't muster up anything else. I felt like this game, and I know he had a double, but I felt like this game for Nick Castellanos was a regression, especially in his last at-bat of the game, the eighth inning. He goes up to the plate, and he allows two pitches on the low outside corner of the plate. All right? One was a ball, one was a strike. I think he went 1-1. But the bottom line is they kept going back to that spot on Nick Castellanos. And the funny thing about it was his history has been chasing that pitch low and outside. And I thought what the Marlins were doing with him was toying with him a little bit, like, come on, you know you want to swing at this. And sure enough, they end up striking him out as he chases a fastball low and away to end his at-bat. The approach in the first inning by both Schwarber and Castellanos getting opportunities with runners in scoring position, absolutely abysmal. Especially, again, going up against a guy who has had control issues, who in his last two games, and we even talked about this yesterday going in the show, so you knew it, I knew it, 13 walks going into this baseball game, and Schwarber and Castellanos decide, no, we're just going to have at it. Not the best approach in the world. Trey Turner looked like his old self. Bryson Stott looks like he's looked this entire season to this point. So obviously very disappointed to see what the Phillies were putting on the table for you yesterday during the game. Fifth inning, I mentioned, with Zach Wheeler issuing a lot of walks. Then, by the way, he comes out in the sixth inning and rewards his offense for grabbing him the lead. 12-pitch sixth inning after struggling mightily there in that fifth inning. Only 12 pitches needed to get out of that sixth inning. Phillies are still up 2-1. Alvarado comes in the seventh, and he had been dominant for you dating back to last year. It's only a matter of time before you're going to get bit in the butt. But before he allowed that game-tying home run, he did put up some interesting numbers here historically. He was the first relief pitcher since the 1961 season. The 1961 season to strike out 11 consecutive batters in a single season. Eric Gagne struck out 10 in 2003. Chad Green struck out 10 in 2019. Jose Alvarado, the first pitcher since 1961 to strike out 11 consecutive batters. Not too shabby. And then, after the praise, after an up-down, what happens? Couldn't just go an inning. Tried to go an inning and a third. The up-down got him. And that's when Soler deposited a baseball into the outfield, snapping Jose Alvarado's scoreless streak of 18 2/3 innings of scoreless baseball. So that hit the fan. Pache then comes in as a defensive replacement in the eighth inning, plays left field. Okay, I guess we could live with that. And then I just don't understand him at the plate ever understand him at the plate, but that's just a story for another day. One more historical thing to give you here. Bryson Stott, by the way, 12-game hitting streak. First Phillies hitter to begin a season with a 12-game hitting streak since Puddin-Headed Jones. Had a 16-game hit streak in 1950. So there you go. One more hat tip on a positive note. Gregory Soto, I don't know what he was doing yesterday, but man, it was working. I think it was that slider. just low and away, getting Chisholm to be able to just flail at that pitch low and away like we've seen Nick Castellanos do. But it was great. It was a great performance for him. 3 strikeouts for him. Great to see his performance out of the bullpen. When the Phillies went to Craig Kimbrell in the 10th inning, I don't hate Craig Kimbrell. I don't have anything against the guy. I just don't really think he's had it this year. And I know it's a small sample size. Hopefully he'll work out some bugs. But when they went to him, I said, that's it. Nope. Phillies are going to be down a run. And sure enough, single with a put out at second. Promptly. RBI single. And that was all they wrote for the Phillies, unfortunately, in that game. De La Cruz getting credited with the RBI single. Rob Thompson, I give a lot of credit. And I know if you're a pitcher, if you're a manager, they can never see a struggle. They can never see a worry. They can never see a concern. Rob Thompson, at least pretty convincing on the idea that he's not very concerned. Here he is talking about what it means to lose a lead in 5 of the 6 games that you played at home. Here's Rob Thompson, your skipper.
Overall, I thought we played well. We really did. We had the one bad game, but other than that, I thought we played well. We're swinging the bats pretty well, playing good defense, and now it looks like our starting pitching's starting to come. Wheeler was outstanding today. Velocity was up, and he held it for most of the game. I thought his slider, sweeper, they call it, was really good. Got a lot of soft contact, did a great job. I thought all of our pitchers did, really. Soto was excellent. I thought Stranathan got 2 soft hits off him, but he did his job, and his velocity was up, and he looked good. Kimbrell gives up the base hit, or the base hit down the right field line inside the bag, but I thought everybody was really good.
Yeah. You don't want the boss man, right? You don't want the skipper starting to act like he's bailing water out from a sinking ship, right? No, of course you don't want to see that. But at some point, there's some concern. I mean, here's the thing. He could say whatever he wants to say, but he's already shown concern with the lineup, and the lineup hasn't been the problem. Like I said, the 4th best batting average in all of baseball. Pitching has been the concern. The bullpen has been a concern. An ace of the staff has been a concern in Aaron Nola because he can't give you more than 5 innings. When you're talking about Bailey Falter, who, by the way, gets to start tonight against the Reds, so must-watch television, and you're talking about Matt Strahm as your aces of the staff, I knew Zach Wheeler was going to bounce back in this game. I had a great feeling about Zach Wheeler in this particular game, and he did. He bounced back great. That's 2 starts in a row for Zach Wheeler, where he's looked really good. Bullpen-wise, you haven't a lot of confidence in the bullpen outside of Jose Alvarado. Maybe now that starts to turn around. Maybe you can start to have some confidence in Gregory Soto after his performance yesterday. Maybe Craig Kimbrell starts working things out there as he comes in as your closer or your later innings guy. Sir Anthony Dominguez has gotten hit this year. You have certainly had your issues. But I thought we were going to get back to some consistency with this lineup. And Rob Thompson has already showed a little bit of concern with it, considering how much he has tinkered with Bryson Stott, for instance. But let's just settle on something right now. Your 1-2 punch, even, of course, when Bryce Harper comes back into the lineup, your 1-2 punch is Trey Turner and it's Bryson Stott. I really don't care who leads off out of those two, but as long as I have those guys as my 1 or 2, as of right now, Bryson Stott's leadoff guy, loving it. Trey Turner coming up next, loving it. Those are your 1-2 punches. Those are your Rollins and your Shane Victorinos. That's the 1-2 punch you want. Those are the table setters you want at the top of this lineup. So you figure that out. Let's stick with that. I don't know what Kyle Schwarber's approach is at the plate, but it looks like it's far off from what it was last year. Power numbers, fine. But at what point are you going to reward a guy like you rewarded Bryson Stott? At what point are you going to reward a guy like Alec Boehm for the season that he's able to put together, the offseason work that he's put in, and the fruits we're seeing from that labor? I mean, I know some people don't like going righty-righty, but I don't mind seeing a situation where you're seeing Stott, you're seeing Turner, and you're seeing Boehm at the 1, 2, 3 spots right there. Castellanos at least getting you doubles. Maybe after that, you're going to have when Bryce Harper comes back. By the way, interesting report on Bryce Harper yesterday. We'll get to that in a second. But if you could have a 1, 2, 3 punch with Stott, Turner, Harper, oh, that's dangerous. That's very dangerous to start out a game. I would love to see that. If Bohm, continues to hit bombs, maybe he starts hitting cleanup for you. That's your 1, 2, 3, 4 punch. And then Castellanos backing that up. JT Realmuto, I got a lot. Hey, look, I was all honest about JT Realmuto last year and the way he started out the season, and really the way he played up until he couldn't play in Canada. He was bad. He was flat out bad. And the Phillies weren't going to go anywhere with him playing the way he was playing. Sure enough, he really turned it around. And what a coincidence. The Phillies turned around their season as well. So they need JT Realmuto to step up. Defense is going to be there for him no matter what. The offense certainly needs to come with JT Realmuto. But as the season goes on and you see guys like Brandon Marsh, this kind of season that they're going to be able to put together, I think it's time to start rewarding guys in this lineup. It's not the biggest problem the Phillies have. Certainly not. But when you're looking for consistency, I think the 1, 2, 3 of Stott, the Trey Turner, and Alec Bohm is the way you need to be starting off ball games right now. Maybe you're moving Kyle Schwarber down to the cleanup spot, just depend on his pop, and then maybe you're depending on a guy like Nick Castellanos there to give you a little bit more than just some nice doubles, which is what he's been giving you a lot of so far this season. I know he had another one yesterday. I know he scored a run, but if you're already showing concerns with how you've been tinkering with the lineup card, maybe there's another tinker you need to do. And that's, of course, what I think Rob Thompson needs to do with this lineup going forward. As far as the pitching goes, this is just one of those situations where I feel like the Phillies loaded up in the bullpen again in the offseason, and now they have one of the guys they brought in as the bullpen guy. Now he's a starting pitcher for you, Matt Strahm, so that takes away from your bullpen. Gregory Soto, of course, hopefully, like I said, he's starting to figure it out. Sir Anthony Dominguez, at some point, I'd love to see him get back to the status that he was at, where he was just unhittable. And then you're starting pitching with a guy like Aaron Nola. I mean, you can't get outshined by Bailey Falter. You can't get outshined by Matt Strahm again. You need to be able to make sure you're getting ace quality starts from a guy that's supposed to be an ace. Supposed to have a 1-2 punch of 2 aces. And Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola. And the 1-2 punch hasn't been there since going back to the World Series, unfortunately. So that's what the skipper had to say about the ballgame last night. Phillies will be back at it tonight. When they take on the Reds, 6:40 start time in Cincinnati. A long road trip. 4 games in Cincinnati. Bailey Falter gets the start tonight. Then you got 3 more in Cincinnati and then 3 more in Chicago. So 4 and 3 game road trips against the White Sox, that is, after a stop in Cincinnati for 4 games. Interesting article from Matt Gelb of The Athletic, where he talks about your man, your boy, Bryce Harper, learning to play first base. This guy wants to do nothing but make us happy as a Philadelphia fan base. They could have some struggles. They could have some issues, but know that when Bryce Harper comes back, you at least know that whatever's going on the field. I talk about with Rob Thompson, you never want to show that, you're terrified that you got to be bailing water out of the boat, right? There's a hole in the boat. I got to keep going. I'm terrified. Bryce Harper is the life raft right now. That's what he is. If this is going to be a rough season, I at least know that Bryce Harper is going to be as frustrated with this team as we are with this team. So what does Bryce Harper do? If he is going to be back in May, which I am saying he is back in May, he's going to be well ahead of the All-Star break. If he is back in May, think about this for a second. He's going to expedite the process even more to help the team later in the season by playing first base. So right now, he is learning first base. Right now, when he comes back, he is most likely, if not definitely, going to be your designated hitter. But June, July, August, that opens up some things if you now have him playing first base and you can use somebody else as your designated hitter. And I put nothing past Bryce Harper when it comes to learning a new position. He can tell you, I want to play shortstop. That's not going to happen. Not with the arm, obviously. But he can tell me I want to play shortstop. Hell, I want to be your closer. And I'd be like, I'm not going to bet against Bryce Harper. Hell no. But Bryce Harper learning to play first base is a tremendous thing for the Phillies because it gives them that optionality they may need later in the season. It shows you how much he wants to come back and help this ball club win. I don't think it's really going to affect his return time, but in terms of his versatility and at least being able to play in the field and give them another option at first base, I think that's fantastic. So to see him learning that position now, and we all know it can be difficult, but I'm not going to bet against a guy like Bryce Harper. Ranger Suarez supposed to throw again later this week, so that's great to see. Hopefully get him back in the starting rotation. Maybe that helps your bullpen as well, being able to put a guy like Matt Strahm back there in the bullpen, whatever the case may be. But Phillies are going to have a battle between Falter and Strahm for that 4th or 5th starter spot in their rotation. Look forward to seeing how that plays out. Derek Hall had surgery 2 months possibly before you get him back in the lineup. So we can see how that develops for the Phillies as well. Before we get to my man, Dave Zangaro of NBC Sports Philadelphia, talking all things NFL draft and where the Eagles stand, including where they're at with this Jalen Hurts contract. Remember that? You know, the Eagles quarterback, Jalen Hurts, supposed to get a big fat contract. One of the latest reports I saw was speculation. 7 years, $345 million. Not a bad day at the office. Before we get to Dave Zangaro, let me tell you about my man Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers, the other corner of 8th and Walnut, right there on Jewelers Row. For over 40 years, Steven's been in the love business in Philadelphia, helping people get engaged and fall in love. So go to the other corner of 8th and Walnut and trust the man with the perfect price. You don't have to worry about negotiating. You don't have to worry about haggling. You just sit back, relax, and enjoy that perfect price at Steven Singer Jewelers. Steven Singer Jewelers, one place, one price, perfect price. Online at IHateStevenSinger.com. That's IHateStevenSinger.com. Let me tell you right now about the great people at Manscaped. Manscaped.com. Get 20% off and free shipping at Manscaped.com. 20% off and free shipping. And with that, you get the Platinum Package 4.0. That includes their 4.0 lawnmower, as well as their Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer. And they come with skin-safe technology that helps reduce the risk of nicks, so you can manscape with confidence and comfort. So go to manscaped.com. Check out all things at manscaped.com. 20% off and free shipping with promo code Farzy. Without further ado, let's jump on the Rothman Orthopedics guest line and talk to our man, Dave Zangaro of NBC Sports Philadelphia. Right now, the Rothman Orthopedics guest line from NBC Sports Philadelphia, Eagles beat writer extraordinaire, co-host of the Eagle Eye podcast, along with our other friend, Ruben Frank. Mr. Dave Zangaro joins us. How are you, Dave?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Are you tired of the Bijan Robinson questions yet, or are you still just loving every second of them?
I feel like we do it every year, so it's it's fun. The pre-draft process is fun, and I think you can get frustrated when you're, well, they're not going to do, but none of this, it's all entertainment, right? Like, we're all just trying to have fun. It's like mock drafts. Like, of course, mock drafts aren't right. Like, there's never been a completely correct mock draft in the history of mock drafts, but we do it because we like to play with the possibilities, and it's fun to talk about the players. I enjoy that part of it. Now, you're going to ask me questions that I'm going to pretend like I kind of know the answer to. And the truth is, like, no one really knows what's going to happen. Like, Howie Roseman has no idea exactly what's going to happen on draft night. And that's what makes it so much fun.
Mm-hmm. See, here, I had you on because, I just thought you had your fingers on the pulse there, Dave Zangaro, and you're just like me. You have no idea. I consider, especially what you do, what Ruben does, of course, Ruben Frank, like, you guys get pretty close to the need scenario with the Eagles. You guys get pretty close to the best player available and how they would fit the Eagles in that scenario. You guys do a pretty good job of staying in that ballpark right there when it comes to the Eagles. So where do you lie on Bijan Robinson and the idea of him coming to Philadelphia? Let's get the hot name off the board immediately with that question. Where are you on Bijan possibly becoming a member of the Eagles?
He's a really good player. He would be, I think he's going to be a good pro, but it just doesn't line up with the way they look at positional value. And we can try to go, but this year's different because they have this great roster, and are they one piece away? They should really double down on the offense, knowing that the defense is going to take a step back, and you have this quarterback, and I get all that, and all that makes sense, but it is so rare to get a top 10 pick, and the Eagles don't expect to be there again for a long time. So I think it's like you kind of go back to, they want to draft a player at a position that they think can be like a cornerstone position, a guy that's not just here for 4 years or 5 years, but a guy who is like a cornerstone to build the franchise around. So and you look at the shelf life of running backs, that's not what happens. And now, could Bijan Robinson be a great player? Yeah, he could, but that only gets you so far. And there's there are other aspects to this too, like the money. I mean, if they draft Bijan Robinson at 10, he'd have a higher cap hit this year than Miles Sanders would in Carolina. So, I think there are a lot of reasons why it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It will be fun, and I think he would make them a better team in 2023. But I don't think that's enough, not knowing what we know about how they view positional rankings in terms of value.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm on the same page with you. I think it would be very entertaining. You always want the sexy pick. Running backs, wide receivers, quarterbacks, of course, are always that sexy pick. But I see the Eagles stressing their defense. They love rotational players. I think they have guys that'll be available at that spot. I don't consider Jalen Carter a rotational player, but I also don't think he'll be on the board there by number 10. Do you see the Eagles being aggressive in this draft, moving up if a guy like him starts falling a little bit? Or do you see them possibly trading back for more assets? Where are you on the Eagles and what they will do with that 10th overall pick?
I think there are 3 players worth trading up for. One of them is Will Anderson, who I kind of anticipate will be long gone before he even gets into range. But Jalen Carter and Tyree Wilson are 2 that you look at and think, okay, if they, I don't know if they'll be there at 10. If they are, you run the card up. But if they're there at 7, at 8, I think that's an area where the Eagles can get into. And we've seen that from them. They've done that a ton in recent years. We've seen them do it. We did it last year, going up to get Jordan Davis. They did it the year before. Eventually, they traded back from 6, but then they ended up trading up from 12 to 10 to get Devontae Smith. They did it when they got Andre Dillard. They've shown a history of moving up and being aggressive. And I think there are players who that makes sense for this year. Now, you have to have 2 to tango, and that's what they're working on now. I mean, Howie likes to map out these trades, and I think most GMs do as well. They use the time before the draft to say, okay, if we're in a situation where the guy we want is at 8, call the Falcons and say, all right, let's work out if you're willing to trade out of this pick, and maybe a team like the Falcons would be because they have a pretty awful roster and they need to really replenish. Say, okay, here's what we'd give you to move up to 8 if our guy's there, and if he's a guy that you don't think is worth all these picks. You have that framework worked out, and then if that situation arises on draft night, you pull it off. I think it's important to note, though, that everything is in play because you don't know exactly how the board in front of you is going to go. That scenario is there. You know, a player you like slides into your range and you're able to get aggressive and take him. But there could also be a scenario where the Eagles are at 10 and they have 5 players that are all kind of in the same value rankings in their own minds, and another team likes one of those guys. Then you trade back 4 spots and you let one of those good players that you think are in the same class fall to you. So I think it kind of works together a little bit. And that's why I don't know if it's more likely they trade up or down. I think a lot of it depends on the way it goes. And I think that's the one thing Howie's shown he's really willing to do is to move up and down the board and get into where they feel like the value is best.
I know this is a tough question because we don't know who's going to be available at 10. As you just pointed out, things can move all over the place. But let's assume they say at 10. Is there a guy that if Howie Roseman did call you, Dave Zangaro, you say, hey, look at the way the board fell. Who would you be most pleased that we pick here at number 10? Who do you think that player is for the Eagles?
I'm not going to give you one. I'm going to give you a few. I think there are defensive players who are worth that pick. The top of the list for me, I know I'm a little bit on my own here, is Miles Murphy from Clemson. I like him a lot. I don't really understand why he's not talked about as much. Nolan Smith has become a very popular name, and I like Nolan Smith too. I think he's another one who would be worthy of that pick. But those are the 2 edge rushers there that I like. And then at cornerback, depending on how the top 10 goes, I really like Christian Gonzalez.
Ooh, okay.
Oregon. And maybe I'm getting too blown away by the traits here, but the one thing he had to prove that he didn't prove at Colorado was that he had ball skills. He went to Oregon. He had 4 picks last year. He has everything from a size and athleticism standpoint that you'd want. And I know it's not like an immediate need, but it's a position where I know they haven't drafted that high in recent history. Heck, it's been since 2002. They haven't drafted a cornerback in the first round. But if you have a chance to get, in my opinion, the top player at that position, And you look around the league and you see, gosh, Sauce Gardner or Patrick Surtain or J.C. Horn playing at a really high level. You think, okay, I mean, that would make some sense. Darius Slay and James Bradbury aren't going to be here forever.
Mm-hmm. Understood. You're the second analyst to champion the cause for Christian Gonzalez. Certainly an intriguing pick there. Will the Eagles make 2 selections in the first round? What are they doing at 30? What do you think they're doing?
No, I don't think they'll make 2.
Okay. Same page again.
Yeah, it takes another team to want to trade up to that spot for sure. I look at like if Hendon Hooker is there, the quarterback, maybe a team wants to slide back into the first round and get their quarterback with that 5th-year option on that deal. We saw that in 2018 when the Eagles traded out a 32nd pick when the Ravens went up to get Lamar Jackson. I think there are reasons that teams would want that 5th-year option. So I could see them trading back. I wouldn't rule out a trade up, trade back. I think that's in play. If they trade up and they have to give up some picks to move up into the higher end of the top 10, then they can recoup some of that with a trade down from 30.
Okay. Easy enough. I look at this draft, and one of the things that jumps out to me is they go 125 selection or 125 picks without making a selection. Like it's a long fall off there from the 3rd round to the 7th round for this Eagles team. So there has to be some point, I would assume, with Howie Roseman dealing for more assets. Is that something we can also expect?
Possible, but I don't think it's a necessity.
Okay.
Honestly. I could see that because they're expected to have 12 picks next year, which is, I mean, I don't think they're going to draft 12 players next year. So they have future assets. If they want to play with them this year and trade future assets and move around the board, they can do that. But they have 4 picks in the top 100. That's rare. They haven't drafted 4 players in the top 100 picks since 2013. So it's just still a really good opportunity. Now, if there's a player that they really like in the mid rounds and they think, well, we got to get there to get this particular player, they can do that. I mean, they're going to have the ammo to be able to pull that off. So I think it's possible they get back into that big window, but I don't think it's something that like Howie desperately has to do.
Okay. Fair enough. I want to talk about this word culture that I keep hearing with all these free agent acquisitions. And I was reading your story on Contavious Street, who comes in to play defensive line for the Eagles defensive tackle position. And you did a great job of explaining the finances coming in here with Howie Roseman just being able to wheel and deal. But outside of Howie and the magic that he can do in that front office with the numbers, this buzzword keeps floating around there. Culture. Everyone's mentioned it that is signed with the Eagles. They like the culture here. And it might seem obvious when you've got guys in the locker room that have won a Super Bowl. You got guys in the locker room that have just been to a Super Bowl. When you hear that word culture thrown around, what's the first thing you think of when you think of this Eagles locker room?
I think about how it used to be under Chip Kelly. And that happens around the league a lot when you have a head coach that doesn't have, sorry to steal Jeff Lurie's term, the emotional intelligence. And culture is something this team thinks about, and it starts from the top. It starts from Jeff Lurie, from Howie Roseman, from the coaching staff. They want guys to buy in, and that's, I think, why we saw them have so much success last year with all those one-year contracts. Because a lot of times you have guys on one-year deals, and they're kind of mercenaries. They're looking out for themselves, and they don't really necessarily care as much about the team, but Nick especially has worked really hard on making sure these guys connect, and it's his favorite word. The steps to relationship build, and it really helps when you have guys in the locker room who have been there for a decade. Yeah, I mean, it's rare to have Jason Kelce, Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, and Lane Johnson all together for a decade. It doesn't happen in the NFL, especially not now. So those guys kind of set the tone. And I think that it also, we mentioned Jalen Carter a little bit ago. If you have concerns about a guy in the draft and whether or not he's mature enough to become a good professional, I think some of those concerns are alleviated a little bit when you have the culture the Eagles have and you have veterans. Like if you draft Jalen Carter and look, legal issues aside, I think the thing you worry about with him are those legal issues stemming from a lack of maturity? If they are, well, guess what? Now you're in a room with Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham and you're staring across from Jason Kelsey every day, I think that stuff matters. And it's not like the only reason you're obviously worried about talent first and foremost, but building the culture matters. And I think back to when Howie Roseman kind of undid a lot of the Chip Kelly moves. The reason he got rid of a lot of those guys was because they didn't really fit the building, whether it was DeMarco Murray or Byron Maxwell, Kiko, like those guys. You can become an Eagle without being a homegrown Eagle, but if you don't fit, you don't fit. And I think that's something that they've been very cognizant of, and it's worked. And you give them a lot of credit for it, because it's not the same in other places. It really isn't.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. I'm trying to crack the code on Sean Desai. I mean, we don't have a lengthy resume here of being a defensive coordinator. We have a blip on the radar, if you will, 1 year over there in Chicago. But what can you tell me about Sean Desai? What have you learned about Sean Desai, and what can we expect from Sean Desai as the Eagles defensive coordinator?
Yeah, it's really funny. They were in this situation this offseason where a kind of a rare situation, I think, where the top internal candidate, who was Denard Wilson, would have been a much bigger shakeup schematically than the external candidate. You look at their backgrounds, and Denard has coached under some really aggressive coaches like Todd Bowles and Greg Williams, whereas Desai, I mean, you're really getting a version of the Vic Fangio defense, which has become very popular in this NFL. And a lot of those staples we saw under Gannon, especially in 2022. In 2021, it was kind of a hodgepodge defense, didn't have a ton of talent. But in 2022, we saw those Fangio staples. And that's what we're going to see under Desai quite a bit. Now, he's going to add his own wrinkles to that. You look back at Chicago, and especially like the fronts being different and kind of overloading fronts at times. There are a lot of things that he's going to do that are going to look a little different, but at its base, I think this defense schematically is going to look an awful lot like it did in 2022. Now, the one big thing we have to remember is this defense is not as talented as the 2022 unit. So, I mean, Desai could do a great job, and the numbers aren't as good at the end of the season. And I think we have to remember that whenever we get around to judging Desai's first year as defensive coordinator, that he has less talent than Gannon had in 2022.
Gotcha. One thing I'll ask about this, and this is a way too early question, but I know it's what everyone's wondering when it comes to a different defensive coordinator here. Is there one thing you can look at with Sean Desai and say he'll probably do this better than Jonathan Gannon, and whether that's being aggressive, which is another buzzword everyone likes to throw out there, blitzing, another buzzword everyone likes to throw out there. Is there one thing you can look at with him that goes, or maybe it's just too early? Oh, he'll be able to do this better than Jonathan Gannon. Adjustments, aggression, whatever.
It's a fair question. I think he'll be a little less rigid in philosophy, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Gannon did things the way he wanted to do them, and at times it was frustrating, I think, to everyone, because you're like, well, this isn't working. Try anything else. Just try anything else. It's not working, and he wouldn't do that. I know this is a little more philosophical, but I think there were moments where Gannon was unwilling to try stuff. And I get the sense that Desai is kind of a problem solver, and he's willing to do things differently. And it doesn't mean he's going to blitz all the time, but I think he will be willing to try different things on occasion. And I think that'll help him. But I still go back to the talent. We don't know exactly what this roster is going to look like, or what this defense is going to look like on opening day. They lost the entire middle of their defense. They lost Javon Hargrave. They lost both safeties. They lost both linebackers. So you're asking them to replace a lot. The mark of a good coach is getting the most out of what you have. So that's what I'm curious to see with Desai this year for sure.
All right, gotcha. Jalen Hurts' contract, he's still getting signed, right? Like, he's not going anywhere? He's still going to sign a big fat contract and stuff? Where are we at on that?
Yeah, I still think it's going to happen this offseason. It goes a long way when the player and the team want it to happen. You look around the league, though, and there's a reason these contracts are taking a while. They're involved, and the Lamar Jackson deal is still hanging in the balance. And then there were the other two who are eligible this offseason, Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow. If I'm the Eagles, I try to get it done before those 2 contracts come in, because that's probably the new floor, whatever those guys get. But I think it's still going to happen. I think there's still some optimism. They've been very upfront about it. I mean, they're not trying to get Jalen Hurts at a discount. They're trying to get this deal done. It's going to be massive. It's going to be 45, 50 million per year. That's just the going rate. The truth of the matter is that if this is a long-term deal, that 45 to 50 mil is, and if he continues to play at this level, is going to be an underpayment in several years with the expected TV money coming in. I heard Joe Banner say this, and I agree with him, that the fight here between the team and the player could be over the length of contract. The team presumably will want a longer contract, knowing that you want this great player longer, and you don't want him to have the ability to renegotiate, whereas Jalen will probably want a shorter deal. Bet on yourself a little bit. You still get a ton of money, and then you get back to the negotiating table once that new TV money comes in. Like, you look at that Patrick Mahomes deal, and at the time everyone went, oh my God, they gave him a 10-year deal. I mean, there's no way he sees the end of it, because he's going to be massively underpaid very soon. So that's kind of just the way these things go, and it doesn't come together overnight.
No, absolutely. Make sure you guys get more of this brilliance with Dave Zangaro and everything he writes for NBC Sports Philadelphia, as well as Eagle Eye Podcast as well with our friend Ruben Frank. Dave, thanks so much. Good luck to you in the next 2 weeks plus when it comes to the NFL draft. I know there's going to be 1,000 names thrown at you, 1,000 scenarios. So best of luck, my friend. No better man for the job than you.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Dave Zangaro joining us on the Rothman Orthopedics guest line. The great Dave Zangaro, ladies and gentlemen, stopping by the program from NBC Sports Philadelphia. Always nice to see Dave. And did you notice the new shelf? He's got a nice new shelf back there. Christian Gonzalez is not the name of the shelf. It's the name of the corner that he, too, sees the Eagles taking. He said if he was next to Howie Roseman, he'd say, hey, Howie, draft this Christian Gonzalez guy. He's pretty good at football. He does have time to grow. He doesn't have to start now. Nobody wants a project in the first round. You want a starter, impact player, which is why Bijan Robinson is like, oh, he's the guy. Take him. He's an impact starter right away. True. But I think they're going to get that impact starter later in the draft. But as far as his advice to Howie, it would be taking a corner, which nobody wants to hear, because you're going to be behind Darius Slay, you're going to be behind James Bradbury, and we're not going to see you be a starter for at least 2 more years. Yeah, that's not good. Nobody likes that. Not even a little bit. But some interesting stuff there from Dave, and we will see something with Jalen Hurts around the $50 million mark when it comes to the average annual salary. Just waiting for the market to set. Maybe this is what Howie was talking about a couple of weeks ago at the owners' meetings when he talked about how the Carson Wentz deal is impacting how he's doing other deals, like learn from your mistake, I guess. They set the market with Carson Wentz. They were out of the gate, man. They were first out of the gate with that Carson Wentz deal. Then everybody else started to fall into place. They're learning. Now they're not thinking they're going to do that with Jalen Hurts. Maybe Jalen Hurts is thinking, no, let's see where everything else falls into place as well. And then we'll talk about how close to that average annual salary of $50 million we're going to get to. Appreciate Dave stopping by. Let me tell you about the great people at Freestone Farm CBD, freestonefarmcbd.com. You like CBD? You use CBD? Maybe Freestone Farm CBD is where it's at for you. Try Freestone Farm CBD at freestonefarmcbd.com. You'll love the tropical tasting Bayox that clocks into our chart topping 24.1%. And Super CBD, which is half Hindu, checks notes, Kush, and 21%. Genetics of these guys are off the charts. So try Freestone Farm CBD, freestonefarmcbd.com. How about the people at PHL Sports Nation, Philadelphia Sports Nation, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience across all social media and blogs? That's phlsportsnation.com. Let's get into the chat check today. See how we're doing on this fine morning. Started off on Farzy show page. We'll get over to Jacob Media page in just a second. April, good morning. John Cheeseborough, you old sandbagging son of a you-know-who's-he, what's-he. What's going on there, John? Nice to see you. Not in panic mode, says John, regarding the Phillies. They should have swept the Reds, I concur, and taken 2 of 3 from the Marlins. Should have. We agree. They should have. PJ saying hi to Cheeseboro. They hammered Alcantara, then fall flat. It's crazy. It was like it's like what they've been doing in past years. They used all their offense in one game. Certainly felt like that, John. Absolutely. April, everyone's saying hi to Cheeseboro. Concern for Nola, works his nerves. Why is it every pitch is an issue with this team? Don't know. Every year pitching is an issue with this team. Certainly seems like it. Also, why do the Phillies get pitchers too late? Looking at you, Kimbrel. I said the same thing. I said Craig Kimbrel is this year's Yari's Familia. Yuli's Familia? How I just don't know how to say his friggin' name. PJ's chiming in. What we were told, they knew Kimbrel had lost some of it, so they were going to work him in the 6th, 7th, and 8th inning, and yet most of the strategies they told us they were going to use, they aren't. Liars. All of them. Sean Gillespie. What's up, Sean? No consistency yet for the Phillies. I see a pattern. Well, that's a pattern of inconsistency. Sean Gillespie. Morning, everybody. Fellow chat checkers. Hello. PJ, yes, I did. I left Andrew Painter out. Was able to pick up a baseball. I've remember in spring training when he pitched, it was fun. Like 98, 99 miles per hour is great and all that stuff. And then it was like, well, he's got a little bit of a tweak. We're not sure. And they're really secretive about it for a couple of weeks. When the Phillies said, when Dave Dombrowski said, we're confident Andrew Painter will pitch this year, it was like Kramer. Middle of the table, money on the table. I'm out. It's not a tweak. It's not a little strain. Multiple months. So that's where we're at. That's where we are right now with Andrew Painter. Oh, goody. But yes, at least he's able to pick up a baseball again. So there you go. Speaking of the White Sox, that collision yesterday was brutal. I didn't see the collision yesterday. I'll have to go back and check that out. Oh, wait, no, I did see it. Was it the Twins? Were they also playing the Twins? Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty brutal. That was pretty nasty. April, speaking of the White Sox collision, April amazingly walked out. Yes, and lived. Mihai Sanchez. What's up, Mihai Sanchez? Morning, Mark, everyone. Really ironic how the Phillies' two best players right now are the homegrown guys, Bohm and Stott. Do the Phillies have a farm system? Maybe. Let's get over to the Jacob Media YouTube channel, see how you guys are doing today. Sean Kilrain. What's up, Sean Kilrain? Good morning, Farzy and crew. Wheeler once again gets no help. Wow. Is it me, or does it seem like the Marlins have the number when we play them? It certainly used to seem like that, but I thought the Phillies got that off their back last year when our friend of the show, Garrett Stubbs, walked it off with that why can't I say that? Bat spike. And then now the Marlins have just come roaring back. 15 runs, 20 hits on Sandy Alcantara. Then you decide to juggle the order again. Stott goes back down. Can't hit a lefty when all he's done in his career is hit lefties. Well, not all he's done. He's hit righties too, but he's hit lefties pretty well enough to justify him staying in the game. Mamma mia. Kevin Smith, what's up? Brutal last night. Love the addition. Oh, love the addition to Farzy. That's very nice. Thank you, Kevin. Yacht. Working out and listening. All right. Have a good workout. Good for you. Zemethian? Did I get that right? Zemethian Watson, what's up? Good morning. Good morning to you as well. Sean Kilrain, thoughts on Harper working out at first base? Love it. Anything you can do to get back in the order as fast as humanly possible. Look, this is not going to delay his recovery. All right, learning first base will still be an ongoing process. Maybe if you need him later in the year at first base, he'll be available because it would be good to have some options there at first base. And if you need to maybe give the DH role to somebody else to have better defense in the field somewhere else, then yes, gives the Phillies some options when it comes to first base. It's not going to expedite the process of him coming back. And with that being said, I still think he comes back at the end of May. But I love it. I absolutely love it. Zemethian, I said it right. Thank you so much. Nailed it. So appreciate everybody in the chat. You guys are great as per usual. Let's get to the morning rush brought to you by Sky Motorcars, SkyMotorcars.com. The Philadelphia Flyers end their season tonight against the Chicago Blackhawks in Chicago. 8:30 puck drop. Blackhawks 26, 49, and 6 on the season. Flyers, believe it or not, slightly better, 30, 38, and 13 on the year. This will be the end of an abysmal season for the Flyers. After this, it's all about where they go from here. It's all about the rebuild. It's all about Danny Briere taking things over. He'll get the interim tag removed. They'll come in. They already have a new CEO. They'll find a president of hockey operations. The Flyers, second to last in the Eastern Conference, and overall, the fourth lowest point total in the NHL. Cool. What a season. I do want to give a little tribute here to Steve Coates. I know I mentioned him a couple weeks ago when they announced that this would be his last season, when he would be retiring. A lot of pictures from the Flyers media and social media about Steve Coates taking his last road trip for his last game with the Flyers organization. Steve Coates, one of my favorite people in Philadelphia media. I got to know him years ago, and just from the get-go, he is as contagious as you would assume he is. Growing up, I watched Coach's Corner every single game, was a huge Flyers fan. Steve Coates was a huge bright spot on those broadcasts. Getting to know him, like I said, just as contagious with his energy when you're around him. He has had a phenomenal career. He has made hockey in Philadelphia so much damn fun. He will be missed. I'll look to get him on the show at some point just so we can have a conversation with Coatesy. But he will be missed. And congratulations, my friend, on a phenomenal career with the Flyers. The 76ers tip off 1 o'clock Saturday. We'll get into that game tomorrow with CBSSports.com's Michael Kasky-Blomain. He'll give us a little bit of a national perspective on the 76ers. And also, he'll talk to us about Joel Embiid and that potential MVP award. Very interesting comments from Joel Embiid to Rachel Nichols of Sports Illustrated now. Goes out and says that, yes, the MVP is just that important. These quotes came from yesterday. Joel Embiid was talking about how important it is for him to win the MVP award because that is the highest individual honor a basketball player can have. Yes, everyone would like to win the MVP award. Every basketball player would like to win the MVP award. I'm sure every basketball player would like to win a championship. We don't get parades for MVPs. I've said this many times before. I would like to see Joel Embiid win the MVP. This year, believe it or not, I cared less about the MVP award for Joel Embiid more so than ever. The bigger thing that I care about, if I have a choice between seeing the Sixers not even win a championship, but play in the NBA Finals or play in the conference finals, if I have that option, you can have one or the other. Joel Embiid wins the MVP or you get to a conference finals. I'm going to take the conference finals because we've seen this ship stop at the second round so many times. It's time to get past that point. It's time to break through that brick wall that is what is after Game 7 of the second round of the playoffs. They have not gotten past that point since Allen Iverson. And we know that even before the process, you got to that point with Andre Iguodala and Drew Holiday. And when you lost in Game 7 to Paul Pierce and the Celtics, finally get past that second round. We'll talk to Michael Kasky-Blomain tomorrow for tomorrow's show about how likely it is the Sixers are able to do that. So we'll keep our fingers crossed for that. Phillies are back at it tonight. As I mentioned earlier, Bailey Falter will get the start for the Phils. 6:40 start time tonight. Would love to see, absolutely love to see what goes on with the Sixers. Now I have all the teams on my mind. Well, I'd love to see what happens to the Phillies tonight. That 6:40 start time in Cincinnati. We'd love to see what the lineup ends up being tonight. But one thing is locked and loaded. Stott, Trey Turner as your 1-2 punch. That 3-hole, I'm very interested to see what they do tonight. I'm going to doubt that Rob Thompson does any different with Kyle Schwarber, but I'm very interested to see what they do against Lodola tonight with Alec Boehm. If they're going to move him up in the order or they're going to keep him down in that 7-hole. That doesn't make any damn sense. So we'll see how that shapes out tonight. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll be back with you guys actually tonight on the Jacob Media YouTube channel after the Phillies hopefully get that win after their 6:40 start time, as we're doing a Phillies post-game show on Jacob Media this season. brought to you by Colony Pools. So make sure you guys check them out as well. But I'll be back with you guys tonight for the Jacob Media Phillies post-game show. And then I'll be back with you guys tomorrow morning, both on the Farzy Show YouTube channel as well as the Jacob Media YouTube channel. Jim Hyde and producer program did a wonderful job as per usual. This is a Buzz Sports Entertainment production. My name is Mark Farzy, and everyone at Jacob Media, everyone at Farzy Show, thank you so much. Much appreciated. Talk to you guys tonight and tomorrow. See ya.